All right, welcome to episode 192 of the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman coming to you on Thursday, October 19th. I missed on Wednesday, but I'm back today. I think I'm going to have two episodes today, and I have probably a couple this weekend too. I'm lining some stuff up. Wanted to take this episode to focus on a group that I think has not gotten enough attention and enough praise for the way they performed this season, and in particular this past weekend in that win over Michigan State, and that's the secondary. I thought that they were so key in the win over Michigan State, making impact plays, and just looking at just knowing what they've done throughout the season, looking at the stats. I mean, this group, rightfully so, the defensive line gets a lot of talk. Obviously, Aaron Lewis, Wesley Bailey, Motere has been fantastic as in a hybrid role. The linebackers are really good with Jennings and Powell. But the secondary on the defensive side had the most questions coming into this season, right? You lost three guys. Christian Izien is starting for the Tampa Bay Bucks. He was a fixture in the back. Avery Young, I believe he's on a practice squad right now, and he was a fixture at safety for many years. And then you had Christian Braswell, who got drafted. So, and he's on a practice squad, I believe. So that's three huge losses in that kind of safety nickel package that we knew Igbenusson and Loyal had some moments last year. We weren't quite sure how they were going to do in full-time roles. And then Flip Dixon, coming over from Minnesota, was a part-time player over there, did have a lot of experience, I believe it was 30 games. Obviously, familiarity with Joe Harris-Simiak, the defensive coordinator for Rutgers. But that group in particular has been fantastic. And Flip Dixon right now, so he is rated Pro Football Focus. They do grades, a pretty complex analytical grading system. Flip Dixon is the number 2 graded safety in college football. That's remarkable. And it just speaks to the volumes in terms of him being acquired to come over as a transfer. It was a tremendous get by Schiano and Harris-Simiak and the staff. He has made a huge impact. I did a video earlier in the season on Loyal, Igbenusson, and Dixon with the big plays that they were making. Dixon had those 2 goal line stands, one-on-one tackles he's made. This is a crazy stat. And in general, the secondary has been really good in this area. But Flip Dixon, he's second on the team in tackles. He's got 44 total. He has 1 missed tackle all season. 7 games, 1 missed tackle. It's 2.4% missed tackle rate. Partially why his grade is so high, but that's just phenomenal. He has been so solid, and in terms of statistics for the season, he is right now second on the team in tackles, like I said, with 44. He has an interception, 5 pass breakups. So it's really been just such a huge stability factor for him in the back of the defense to be able to do what he's doing. Can't say enough. And then Igbenusson, just his performance against Michigan State in particular. He had 8 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 4 in one game as a safety. That's wild. That nobody else on the team. Does anybody else on the team even have that for the season? Aaron Lewis has 4 for the season. Bailey has 3.5. Igbenusson now 1.5. He had 4 against Michigan State. Just a phenomenal performance for him. He also had the fumble recovery and a quarterback hit. One thing that you could say about the cornerbacks, statistically, Melton isn't having as good of a season as I think hoped. But his ability, his respect as the number 1 corner, his coverage ability, they always say like the best corners, there's not a lot of action their way, but the confidence that Harris-Simiak has and Schiano has in Melton and also Robert Longerbeam to be able to do the safety blitzes they've been doing throughout the season, that's been a huge factor as well. The trust factor in those corners, being able to hold their ground and make plays, and the fact that he's able to have the versatility, right? With Igbeneusen and Loyal in particular are able to come in on safety blitzes. They each have a sack this season. And Loyal, he had 5 tackles the other day. And then, of course, you had Longer Beam with 2 forced fumbles and a fumble recovery. It's been great to see how many big plays those guys can generate. And conversely, the amount of big plays they've given up, which is very few and far between. I saw a statistic somewhere. I can't find it after I saw it, but it was something about plays given up over 30 yards. I think Rutgers only given up 1 play over 30 yards as a defense this season. That's phenomenal. And a lot of it is the secondary being able to make plays in that intermediate zone, not letting running backs or receivers on the loose get past them, and it goes down to tackling. And Rutgers, as a defense, per Football Focus, is the number 1 highest graded tackling team in college football. Wild statistic. Aside from Dixon having 1 missed tackle all season, Longerbeam has 2 missed tackles all season. That's a rate of 9.5%. How many tackles does he have? He's got 19 on the season. He's got a sack. He's got an interception. He's got 5 pass breakups. He's got a fumble recovery. He's got 2 forced fumbles. He's a stat machine. He's a slight guy. He's not the biggest guy, but he just makes plays, and he's a really smart player. Shaquan Loyal, 2 missed tackles all season, 4.5% rate. He is 5th on the team in tackles with 37. He's got a tackle and a half for loss. He's got an interception return. He's got 2 pass breakups. But those 3 guys, Longerbeam, Loyal, and Dixon, have 5 missed tackles between them all season in 7 games. That's phenomenal. Igbeneusen he has got 5, but it's a 15% rate because he makes a lot of tackles as well. He is right there with Loyal. He's over 30. So they're not missing tackles. Again, we always talk about limiting mistakes, right? Turnovers, penalties, but it's drops, it's missed coverages, it's missed tackles, and this defense as a whole is not making mistakes. And the secondary in particular, not only they're not making mistakes, but they're making big plays. I just think that their ability, the versatility, the way that Harris Simiak has used them in a bit different ways. Rutgers hasn't faced, in fairness, they haven't faced a top passing offense yet. Michigan, had some success. It's going to be really interesting to see how this group holds up in November. I talked about depth on Tuesday being so essential for this team to finish the season strong. Obviously, Ohio State, they're going to throw the ball a lot. Colin McCord, maybe not one of their scariest quarterbacks in recent times, but, pretty good quarterback, New Jersey guy. They, of course, have Marvin Harrison Jr. That's going to be a fascinating matchup, obviously skipping ahead a little bit. Iowa, no, in terms of passing, but Penn State's got a great passing offense with Alar. And then you have Maryland with, Tagovailoa. So the secondary is certainly going to be tested in November with those 3 opponents. But it should be noted that the way this defense is playing, in terms of how good this defense has been as a whole, legit top half Big Ten defense, maybe top 5. I think you could make that argument fairly that they are. Statistically, they kind of are. Nationally, they're, pretty high up in a lot of different categories. And the secondary has a ton to do with it. As a whole, the defense is balanced, 1 through 11 in terms of every position in the starting lineup. As I can remember, there's really no weak spots. And again, if you go back to the preseason, the secondary was the biggest question mark on the defensive side. We were wondering about depth at defense. We're wondering how, they're kind of utilize all the depth they had at linebacker. But the secondary in particular with the safeties and with a defense that likes to play the 4-2-5 pretty much all the time, that was a big question mark. And that was a big if in terms of can the Rutgers defense take a step forward this season like we all hope they could. And so far through 7 games, the answer is unequivocally yes. And a big reason is the play of that secondary. Flip Dixon, Igbeneusen, and Loyal have really worked out in terms of every day defensive backs. And then you have Melton and Longerbeam. And, I think Longerbeam is just so underrated in terms of his consistency. He rarely gets beat, and he makes plays. And, he's not the biggest guy out there. He's not the fastest guy out there, but he's very smart. He plays within himself, and he just makes plays. And it's been great to see. And again, we talk about the team as a whole limiting mistakes, but the defense, they've not only do they play extremely hard, not only do they as a whole really swarm to the ball very well, but they're not overly aggressive in the sense that they overcommit and they get burned, or they overcommit and they misread on a tackle. They're not making those kind of mistakes. So they really are playing within themselves as a whole. Harris Simiak is a fantastic defensive coordinator. We've seen this unit grow, and I think the hope now is obviously you need to win in Indiana. That's really just huge in terms of having that opportunity to get the bowl eligibility with a win there. Indiana's struggling with their quarterback situation. I wrote about it this morning in terms of if they're going to start Brendan Sorsby or Taven Jackson. Both have struggled with turnovers. There's a real opportunity on Saturday for this defense in the secondary in particular to get a lot of turnovers. So huge focus on them, huge appreciation for them. And I know, fans paying attention know that, and just wanted to put kind of the spotlight on them for this episode. And I'll be back with the next one with David Anderson to preview and the keys of victory against Indiana. Thanks for listening and watching the Scarlet Faithful podcast, and check out all my coverage at thescarletfaithful.com. Thank you.